The billionaire laughed when the poor single mom returned her daughter's milk. Everyone thought he was cruel, heartless, arrogant. But what no one knew was this. The humiliation was intentional, and everyone in that store was being tested. Before we continue, if you believe dignity still matters in a world like this, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because what happens next will completely change how you see this story. The store was loud, bright, and unforgiving. Carts rolled past. Cash registers beeped. Laughter echoed from somewhere near the bakery aisle. But at checkout lane 4, time seemed to slow. She stood there quietly, a poor single mother. Faded jacket, worn shoes. Her daughter clutched her leg, eyes fixed on the small carton of milk resting on the counter. The cashier scanned the items one by one. Beep, bread, beep, rice, beep, eggs, then the milk. The screen flashed red. The cashier paused, looked at the total, looked back at the woman. "I'm sorry," the woman said softly, already reaching for the milk. "Please, remove that." Her voice didn't shake, but her hands did. The little girl tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, it's okay." The woman forced a smile. "We'll get it next time." Behind them, a man scoffed. It was loud enough to be heard, too loud to be ignored. "Unbelievable," the man said. "If you can't afford milk, maybe you shouldn't be shopping here." A few heads turned. The woman stiffened but said nothing. The man stepped forward slightly. Well-dressed, calm. Expensive watch glinting under the lights. His tone wasn't angry, it was worse. Amused. "People like this," he continued, gesturing openly now, always expecting sympathy. "This isn't a charity." The line went quiet. The cashier avoided eye contact. A shopper whispered, "That's harsh." Another shook their head in disbelief. The woman swallowed hard and placed the milk back on the counter herself. "I'm sorry," she said again. Not to the man, but to everyone. Her daughter looked up at her confused. "Did I do something wrong?" That's when the man laughed, a short laugh. Controlled, almost practiced. "No," he said. "You didn't. Your mother did." The store felt colder. No one knew it yet. Not the cashier, not the customers, not even the trembling woman at the counter. But this moment wasn't random. This humiliation wasn't accidental. And the man mocking her? He wasn't just watching her. He was watching everyone. Silence spread through the checkout line like spilled water. No one moved. No one laughed with him. That seemed to annoy the man more than anything. He glanced around, eyebrows raised as if daring someone to challenge him. A woman near the candy rack shook her head. A man behind the single mother clenched his jaw but stayed quiet. The cashier cleared her throat nervously. "Sir, please." The man cut her off with a small wave of his hand. "Relax, I'm just stating facts." The single mother lowered her eyes. Not in shame, in restraint. She placed the milk gently on the metal shelf beside the register as if it were fragile, as if making noise might break her. "I'll just pay for the rest," she said calmly. Her daughter hugged her leg tighter. The man leaned closer now, lowering his voice, but not enough. "You know what's sad?" he said. "It's not the money, it's the choices." That did it. A middle-aged shopper spoke up. "Hey man, that's enough." The billionaire smiled, not apologetically, curiously. He tilted his head, studying the speaker. Not angry, not defensive, almost interested. "Enough," he repeated. "Why? Because the truth makes you uncomfortable?" The store manager was nowhere to be seen. The cashier stared at the screen, pretending to be busy. The woman finally turned. She looked at him for the first time. Her eyes weren't wet. They weren't pleading. They were tired. "I didn't ask for your opinion," she said softly. "And I don't need your pity." A murmur rippled through the line. The man's smile faded, just for a second. Then it came back, sharper. "Oh, this isn't pity," he replied. This is reality. He stepped back, crossing his arms, surveying the people around him like a teacher observing a classroom. Some looked away, some stared at the floor. A few watched him closely, especially one elderly woman near the exit, who never stopped watching. The single mother paid for her items, the receipt printed slowly, painfully. As she reached for her bag, the man spoke one last time. "Next time," he said, "plan better." She paused, not because she was hurt, but because she was choosing something. She turned, looked straight at him, and said, "I plan every day. You just don't see it." And then she walked away. The man watched her go, and quietly under his breath he said, "Interesting." The doors slid shut behind the woman and her daughter, but the moment didn't leave with them. It lingered. The checkout line remained frozen, like everyone was waiting for permission to breathe again. The man exhaled slowly and looked around. Some shoppers avoided his gaze. Others stared at him openly now, no longer shocked, just disturbed. The elderly woman by the exit took a step closer. "That was unnecessary," she said firmly. The man nodded once, as if acknowledging a comment from a student. "Maybe." He turned to the cashier. "Finish ringing me up." Her hands trembled as she scanned his items. Luxury chocolates, imported water, nothing essential. As the register beeped, the man's eyes moved, not randomly, but deliberately. He noticed the young employee who had smirked earlier, the man who had spoken up, the woman who whispered but did nothing, the people who said nothing at all. He remembered every face. The cashier finally spoke. "Sir, your total." He paid without looking. Then he stood there, waiting. Someone coughed. A child cried in another aisle. Finally, the man spoke again. "Funny thing about moments like this," he said aloud. "They reveal more than we think." No one responded. The elderly woman frowned. "What are you talking about?" He smiled faintly. "Human nature." He glanced toward the exit again, where the single mother had disappeared. "She could have yelled," he continued, "could have begged, could have blamed the world." His eyes flicked back to the line. But she didn't. The man who defended her earlier crossed his arms. "So what? You humiliate people to study them?" The man's smile tightened. "I observe," he said. "There's a difference." The cashier finally snapped. "Sir, if you're done, please move along." He leaned closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Don't worry," he said calmly. "This store will remember today." Her face went pale. He turned and walked away from the register, but instead of heading for the exit, he stopped near the customer service desk. From his pocket, he pulled out his phone, typed a message, then waited. The elderly woman watched him closely. Something about the way he stood, confident, unbothered, almost patient, felt wrong, like someone waiting for a curtain to rise. And somewhere outside, the single mother hugged her daughter, unaware that the humiliation she just endured was only the beginning, not of her downfall, but of a test. The automatic doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. Outside, the evening air was cooler, quieter. The single mother paused near the edge of the parking lot, balancing 2 grocery bags on her arms while her daughter skipped beside her, unaware of the weight hanging over her mother's heart. "Mommy," the little girl said, looking up, "are we still going to have cereal?" The woman smiled, not because she felt okay, but because her daughter needed to. "Yes," she replied, "just with water tonight." The child nodded thoughtfully, as if considering this an acceptable trade. They reached their old car. The paint was peeling. One tail light was cracked. The woman unlocked it slowly, taking a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Only then did her shoulders slump, for just a moment. She rested her forehead against the car door, eyes closed. Not crying, remembering, The bills on the kitchen table, the overdue notice from the power company, the voicemail from the landlord. And still, she hadn't raised her voice, she hadn't begged. She had walked away with what little she had left. Her daughter climbed into the back seat and buckled herself in. "That man was mean," she said quietly. The woman started the car. "Sometimes," she replied, "people speak from places they don't understand." The little girl thought for a second. Did we do something bad? The woman turned, meeting her daughter's eyes in the rearview mirror. "No," she said firmly. "We did nothing wrong." She backed out of the parking spot and drove away. Inside the store, the man was still standing, still watching, through the glass. He saw them leave, and for the first time since he walked in, something flickered across his face. Not guilt, not regret. Recognition. He slid his phone back into his pocket and glanced at his watch. "Any minute now," he murmured. A store employee nearby overheard him and frowned. "What did you say, sir?" He didn't answer. Instead, he straightened his jacket, stepped toward the center of the store, and raised his voice just enough to be heard. "Everyone," he said calmly, "I need your attention." Conversations died mid-sentence. Carts stopped rolling. The air shifted, because whatever was about to happen, this store wasn't ready for it. The man's voice wasn't loud. That's what made it unsettling. "Everyone," he repeated calmly, "I need your attention." Shoppers froze mid-step. A cart bumped into another and stopped. Even the hum of conversation seemed to fade. The store manager hurried out from a side aisle, forcing a smile. "Sir, is there a problem?" The man turned slowly. "No," he said. "There was a situation." The manager glanced around nervously. "If you're unhappy with our service, I can—" "This isn't about service," the man interrupted. "It's about behavior." A ripple of unease passed through the store. The cashier from lane 4 stared at the floor. The employee who had smirked earlier shifted his weight. The elderly woman folded her arms. The man clasped his hands behind his back and began to walk. Not toward the exit, but deeper into the store. "Moments ago," he said, pacing slowly, "a woman stood at this register and quietly returned milk she couldn't afford." Several heads nodded. Some faces reddened. "I made a comment," he continued, "one that wasn't kind." Gasps whispered through the crowd. The manager swallowed. "Sir, please, I'm not finished," the man said. And somehow, the manager stopped speaking. "I watched," the man went on, "as some of you laughed, some of you judged, some of you looked away." His eyes scanned the room. "And a few of you," he said, pausing, stood up. The man who had spoken earlier felt every eye turn toward him. The man stopped walking. "I want you to understand something," he said slowly. "Nothing that happened here was accidental." The store went dead silent. The manager frowned. "What do you mean by that?" The man reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and dialed. 1 ring, 2. Then he spoke into it, his voice steady. "Bring them in," he said. "Now." He ended the call and slipped the phone away. A cashier whispered, "Who was that?" The man looked at her. "You'll see," he replied. At that exact moment, the automatic doors at the front of the store slid open, and 3 men in tailored suits stepped inside. They didn't look like shoppers, they looked like they owned something. The store held its breath. The 3 men didn't rush, they didn't speak. They walked in with the quiet confidence of people who were used to being obeyed. Their shoes clicked softly against the floor as they crossed the entrance. Each of them wore the same expression, calm, unreadable, alert. The store manager stiffened. Can I help you, gentlemen?" he asked, his voice suddenly unsure. One of the men held up a hand, not rudely, decisively. They walked past the manager without acknowledging him and stopped in front of the man who had called them. All three nodded. "Sir," one of them said. That single word changed everything. A few shoppers exchanged glances. The cashier's hands began to shake again. The man turned to face the crowd. "You see," he said, "this store is more than shelves and prices." He gestured toward the suited men. "It's a system. And every system reveals itself under pressure." The manager cleared his throat. "Sir, I need to know what's going on." The man looked at him then. Really looked at him. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 10 years, the manager replied quickly. "And in those 10 years," the man continued, "how many times have you watched someone struggle at your register?" The manager opened his mouth. "Closed it." The man nodded. "Exactly." He turned back to the crowd. "Some of you believe character shows up when people are comfortable," he said. "I disagree." One of the suited men stepped forward and whispered something in his ear. The man smiled faintly. "Good," he said. He pointed subtly toward the employee who had smirked earlier. "And you," he said. "What did you find funny?" The employee's face drained of color. "Sir, I didn't mean—" "Save it," the man said calmly. He gestured to another employee who had looked away. "And you," he added, "why did you stay silent?" The store felt smaller. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening. He was dissecting them. Finally, he raised his voice just enough for everyone to hear. "Today," he said, "was a test." A gasp rippled through the room. "A test of dignity," he continued, "of empathy, of courage." The elderly woman whispered, "I knew it." The man glanced at her and gave a single nod. "But we're not done yet," he said. He turned toward the entrance again. "Because the most important part of this test is still missing." The man clasped his hands behind his back and paced slowly between the aisles. No one followed him. No one dared. "This test," he said, "was never about money." He stopped beside the man who had defended the single mother earlier. "You," he said, "step forward." The man hesitated, then did. "I didn't do anything special," he said. "I just thought—" "That's exactly it," the man interrupted. "You thought." He turned to the elderly woman near the exit. "And you," he said. "Why didn't you leave?" She lifted her chin. "Because injustice shouldn't be ignored." The man nodded approvingly. He looked at the rest of the shoppers. "Notice something?" he asked. "None of these people asked for permission." The store manager shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, if this is some kind of experiment, you can't—" "You're right," the man said calmly. "I can't." He paused. "But I did." A murmur spread. The suited men remained still, like sentinels. The man turned back to the cashier from lane 4. "And you," he said gently. "What were you feeling when she returned the milk?" The cashier swallowed hard. I wanted to help, but I was afraid." The man studied her. "Afraid of what?" "Of losing my job," she whispered. The man nodded slowly. "Fear explains behavior," he said. "It doesn't excuse it." He turned back to the crowd. "Most people don't fail tests because they're cruel," he continued. "They fail because they're comfortable." He walked to the front of the store and stopped. "Soon," he said, "you'll all understand why this matters." The manager's phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked it, then checked it again. His face went pale. He looked up at the man. "Sir, I just got a message from corporate." The man raised an eyebrow. "And?" The manager swallowed. "They said to follow your instructions." The store gasped. The man took a step forward. "Good," he said. "Then let's finish." The man turned to one of the suited men and spoke quietly. "Find her." The man nodded and stepped away, already dialing his phone. The store manager blinked. Find who? The woman, the man replied. The one who returned the milk. A hush fell over the room. The cashier's eyes widened. She already left. That's fine, the man said. She won't be far. The manager wiped sweat from his brow. Sir, with respect, why bring her back? You've already... The man raised a finger. Not threatening, final. Because, he said, she deserves to see the end of this. The elderly woman smiled faintly. Minutes passed. The crowd didn't move. No one dared leave now. The automatic doors slid open again, but this time, it wasn't the suited men. It was her. And just when everyone thought the humiliation was over, the real test began. The single mother stepped inside slowly, confusion written across her face. Her daughter held her hand tightly, eyes darting around the silent store. I was told there was a problem, the woman said cautiously. The man turned to face her. For a moment, the store watched them. The woman he had humiliated and the man who had done it. You didn't have to come back, she added quietly. Yes, the man said. I did. The daughter whispered, Mommy, that's him. The woman nodded. I know. The man took a step closer. Not too close. I owe you something, he said. She stiffened. I don't want your money. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The man smiled slightly. You're not here for money. He turned to the shoppers. This woman, he said, was the center of our test. Her eyes widened. Test? You were observed, he said. Not judged. The woman's voice trembled, not with fear but disbelief. You humiliated me? Yes, he replied, and you kept your dignity. The store felt the weight of those words. But, he continued, what happens next matters more than what already happened. He gestured toward the manager. Bring me the personnel files. The manager hesitated, then obeyed. The single mother looked down at her daughter, unsure whether to protect her or stay, and the store waited. The manager returned with a thick folder clutched to his chest. He handed it to the man with both hands. The man didn't open it right away. Instead, he looked at the single mother. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. Anna. And your daughter? Lily. He nodded once, committing the names to memory. Anna, he said calmly, during that moment at the register, did anyone help you? She thought for a second. No, she answered honestly. Someone spoke up, but no one stepped forward. The man turned to the crowd. Did you hear that? He asked. Silence. He finally opened the folder, flipped through pages slowly. These are evaluations, he said. Customer reports, incident notes. The cashier's knees nearly buckled. The employee who had smirked earlier began to sweat. The man stopped at one page. You, he said, pointing at the smirking employee. 3 warnings, 2 complaints. The employee stammered. Sir, I was just... done, the man said quietly. One of the suited men stepped forward. The employee was escorted away. Gasps filled the store. The man flipped another page. And you, he said, looking at the cashier. No complaints. Good performance. She exhaled in relief. But, he added, fear stopped you. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Fear is expensive, the man said, but it's fixable. He closed the folder and handed it back to the manager. Effective immediately, and he said, there will be mandatory training on dignity and intervention. The manager nodded rapidly. Anna spoke up then. Why are you doing this? She asked. Why now? The man looked at her. Because, he said, you reminded me of someone. Her brow furrowed. Someone I failed, he continued. The store leaned in. But today, he said, I get a second chance. He turned to one of the suited men. Prepare the offer, he said. Anna's heart pounded. Offer, she repeated. The man met her eyes. "We're not finished yet," he said. The store felt smaller now. Not because the walls had moved up pessoas, but because everyone was listening. Anna held Lily's hand tightly. Her daughter looked up at the man with wide, searching eyes. "You said I reminded you of someone," Anna said carefully. "Who?" The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he gestured toward a bench near the front of the store. "Sit," he said gently. She hesitated, then sat. Lily climbed onto her lap. The man remained standing. "Years ago," he began, "I watched a woman struggle the same way you did." Anna's breathing slowed. She was proud, he continued. Quiet, refused help, always planning, always sacrificing. Somewhere in the store, someone sniffed back tears. "I was there," he said. "I saw her struggle." Anna swallowed. "And you helped her?" The man's jaw tightened. "No," he replied. "I walked past her." A heavy silence fell. "Because I told myself it wasn't my responsibility," he said. "Because I was busy. Because I was comfortable." Lily squeezed her mother's arm. The man looked down at the child. "That woman," he said softly, "paid a price for my indifference." Anna felt her chest tighten. What happened to her? The man exhaled slowly. "She didn't fail," he said. "The system did." He straightened. "That's why today mattered." He turned to the suited man holding a tablet. "Read it," he said. The man hesitated, then spoke. "Offer of employment. Full benefits, flexible hours." Anna's eyes widened. "For who?" she asked. "For you," the man replied. The store gasped. "But," he added quickly, "this isn't charity." Anna stood. "Then what is it?" The man met her gaze. "It's restitution," he said. "And accountability." He paused. "And there's more." The store leaned forward. "Much more," he added. Anna didn't sit back down. She didn't smile. She didn't say thank you. Instead, she tightened her grip on Lily's hand and looked the man straight in the eyes. "I don't want pity," she said firmly. "And I don't want to be your lesson." A murmur swept through the store. The man nodded slowly as if he had been expecting this. "Good," he replied, "because pity was never the offer." Anna's voice shook, not from fear but from restraint. "You humiliated me in front of my child." Several shoppers nodded. "You made her think we did something wrong." The man's expression didn't harden, it sharpened. "You're right," he said, "and that's why you're still standing." Anna blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said calmly, "that despite everything, you didn't beg. You didn't curse. You didn't break." He gestured toward the crowd. "Most people confuse dignity with silence," he continued. "You showed it through restraint." The manager shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, people are watching." The man glanced around. "They should." Anna shook her head. "So what happens now? You give me a job and feel better about yourself?" The question hit hard. The store went quiet. The man paused for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "What happens now is choice." He nodded toward the suited man with the tablet. "The offer includes paid training," he said. "Education assistance, childcare support." Anna's breath caught for Lily, he added. "Not tied to performance, not conditional." Lily looked up. "Mommy, school?" Anna swallowed. "And your debts," the man continued, "are not erased because you're poor." He stepped closer. "They're erased because the system that trapped you profited from your silence." Anna stared at him. "You're trying to fix everything at once," she said. "No," he replied. "I'm fixing one moment." He lowered his voice. "The same moment I ignored years ago." The weight of his words pressed down on the room. Anna looked around. at the faces watching, judging, waiting, then back at him. "And if I say no?" she asked. The man didn't hesitate. "Then," he said, "I'll respect you even more." Anna didn't answer right away. She looked down at Lily, who was swinging her legs gently, unaware of how close her life was to changing. "What do you think?" Anna asked softly. Lily shrugged. "You said choices matter." A few people smiled at that. Anna looked back up at the man. "You said this wasn't charity," she said. "So tell me the truth. What do you get out of this?" The question cut through the room. The man inhaled slowly. "I get to see," he said, "whether dignity still exists when it's tested." Anna frowned. "That sounds like control." "It can be," he admitted, "which is why you're allowed to walk away." The suited man with the tablet shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, perhaps—" "No," the man said quietly. "This part matters." He turned back to Anna. "You don't owe me gratitude," he continued. "You don't owe this store loyalty. If you accept, it's because it gives you leverage." "Leverage for what?" Anna asked. "For choice," he replied. The word hung in the air. Anna exhaled slowly. "My whole life," she said, "has been about surviving what comes next." She looked around the store. "Today wasn't the hardest thing I've faced," she continued. "It was just the most public." Several shoppers nodded, ashamed. Anna straightened her shoulders. "If I say yes," she said, "it's not because you embarrassed me." She paused. "It's because my daughter deserves more options than I had." Lily squeezed her hand. The man nodded once. "That," he said, "is the correct reason." Anna took a deep breath. "Then I'll say yes," she said, "but on my terms." The store collectively exhaled. "And those terms are?" the man asked. Anna met his gaze. "No special treatment," she said. "No public favors, and no more tests on people who can't afford to fail them." The man studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Agreed," he said. But as he turned toward the manager, his expression shifted. Because the next part of the test was no longer about Anna. The man turned away from Anna and faced the store manager. "For years," he said calmly, "you've been running this place like a machine." The manager nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. We follow policy." "That," the man replied, "is the problem." He gestured toward the cashier, the aisles, the people still frozen in place. Policy without humanity becomes cruelty with permission. The manager swallowed hard. The man stepped closer. "How many times," he asked, "have customers been shamed quietly here?" The manager opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm not asking for a guess," the man continued. "I'm asking because I know." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The suited man with the tablet stepped forward. "Sir, the internal reports?" "I've read them," the man said. "Every single one." The manager's face drained of color. "You've been warned," the man said. "Twice, and you ignored it." "I was under pressure," the manager stammered. "Sales targets, staffing shortages." "Everyone is under pressure," the man interrupted. "That's when leadership matters." He turned slightly so the whole store could hear. "Effective immediately," he announced. "This location will be under review." Gasps echoed. The manager's knees nearly buckled. "Staff who showed compassion today," the man continued, "will be noted." He looked at the man who spoke up earlier, then the elderly woman. "Staff who mocked, ignored, or enabled humiliation." He paused, letting the silence do the work. "Will be removed." One employee began to cry. The man didn't look away. "This isn't punishment," he said. "It's consequence." Anna watched quietly. For the first time, she wasn't the smallest person in the room. The man turned back to her briefly. "This," he said, is why I needed you to see the end." She nodded slowly. The suited men moved, speaking quietly into earpieces. Phones buzzed. Emails were sent. The system was shifting, and still. One question remained unanswered. Who exactly was this man? That corporate listened before he finished speaking. The store manager's phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen, then froze. He stared at it like it might explode in his hand. "Sir," he whispered. The man didn't turn. "Read it." The manager swallowed. It's from headquarters." "And?" the man asked calmly. "They want confirmation," the manager said, his voice cracking. "They want to know if you're really here." The man finally turned. Slowly. "Yes," he said. "Tell them I am." The manager's hands trembled as he typed. Across the store, a few employees whispered nervously. "Who is he? Why are they panicking? Did we mess up?" The suited man stepped forward and spoke clearly for the first time. "For those who are confused," he said, "you are currently in the presence of the majority stakeholder of this retail chain." The store erupted. Gasps. Hands flew to mouths. Someone dropped a basket. The manager staggered back against the counter. You own," he stammered. "I didn't say that," the man replied calmly. The room went silent again. "I don't own the store," he continued. "I own the responsibility." He glanced at Anna. "This chain exists because people like you shop here," he said. "And it survives because people like them." He gestured to the staff. "Forget that." Anna felt a chill run through her. The man turned back to the crowd. "My name isn't important," he said. "What matters is what you did when you thought no one powerful was watching." The elderly woman nodded slowly. "So this really was a test?" "Yes," the man replied. "And most people failed." The words landed hard. "But," he added, looking at Anna and Lily, "some people reminded me why systems exist in the first place." He checked his watch. "We're almost done," he said. But the way he said it made it clear the biggest moment was still coming. The man took a step forward. Not toward the manager, not toward the staff, toward Anna. The store watched in silence. "When I spoke to you earlier," he said, "I chose humiliation." Anna's jaw tightened. "I justified it as observation," he continued, "as strategy." He paused, but it was still wrong. A murmur rippled through the room. The man straightened his shoulders. "I want to say this clearly," he said, his voice carrying. "Not as an owner, not as an executive." He looked at Anna directly, but as a human being. The store leaned in. "I'm sorry," he said. Not loudly, not dramatically. Honestly. Anna's breath caught. No one spoke. The man continued, "Power makes it easy to forget what dignity costs, you reminded me." The suited men remained still. The manager stared at the floor. "I cannot undo what your daughter saw," the man said quietly. "But I can decide what she sees next." He turned slightly so Lily could see his face. "You didn't do anything wrong," he told her. "And neither did your mother." Lily nodded solemnly. Anna felt her throat tighten. The man stepped back. "This apology isn't closure," he said to the crowd. "It's responsibility." He turned to the staff. "If you remember nothing else from today," he continued, "remember this. Dignity is not a benefit. It's a baseline." Several employees wiped tears from their eyes. Anna spoke then. "You didn't have to say that," she said. "Yes," he replied. "I did." He gestured toward the suited man with the tablet. "Proceed," he said. The man tapped the screen. "And one more thing," the billionaire added. The room held its breath. "Bring the files on her debts." Anna's heart skipped. The man looked at her. We're finishing this properly. The suited man returned with a slim folder. No logos, no dramatic stamps, just paper. This reprints medical bills, the man said calmly. Late fees, predatory interest, accumulated penalties. Anna felt dizzy just hearing the words. The man took the folder and held it loosely in one hand. These debts, he said, were never about irresponsibility. He looked around the store. They were about survival. Anna closed her eyes. For years, numbers had followed her, haunted her, defined her. The man tore the folder cleanly in half, then again, then once more. Paper fluttered to the floor. The store gasped. Cleared, he said simply. Anna's knees nearly gave out. She reached for the counter to steady herself. This doesn't make you indebted to me, the man continued. It makes the system accountable. Tears finally slipped down Anna's cheeks. Not loud, not messy. Relief tears. Lily hugged her tightly. Mommy, are we okay? Anna nodded, unable to speak. Yes, she whispered. We are. The man turned to the crowd. Notice, he said, that this wasn't announced earlier. He gestured to the torn papers. Because help given for applause isn't help, it's performance. The elderly woman nodded approvingly. The man looked back at Anna one last time. This chapter of your life ends today, he said. Not because I decided it should, but because you endured long enough to deserve an exit. Anna wiped her face. You tested everyone, she said softly. Yes, he replied. And yourself? She asked. The man paused, then nodded. Yes, he said quietly. Especially myself. He glanced at his watch. One final thing remains. The store leaned in again, because everyone could feel it. This wasn't the end yet. The store no longer felt hostile. It felt quiet, reflective. The man turned to Anna again, but this time his posture was different. Less authority, more intention. The position I offered you, he said, isn't behind a register. Anna blinked. It's not. No, he replied. It's in community outreach. The manager looked up sharply. You will work with families like yours, the man continued. Not to rescue them, but to remove barriers. Anna listened carefully. Training, he added. Mentorship? A voice in how policies are written. Her breath caught. You'd have authority, he said. And protection. Lily tugged her sleeve. Mommy, you'd help people? Anna smiled through tears. Yes, sweetheart. The man nodded. That's why it has to be you. He turned to the suited men. Draft the contract. Start date. Immediate. One of them hesitated. Sir, the board... The board will listen, the man said calmly. Anna took a step forward. Why me? The man met her gaze. Because you weren't looking for power, he said. And those are the only people who should have it. The words settled over the room. The manager exhaled heavily. You're changing how this place works, he said. Yes, the man replied, because it stopped working for people. Anna glanced around the store. Faces that once judged her now watched with respect. This doesn't erase what happened, she said. No, the man agreed, but it redirects it. He gestured toward Lily. This, he said, is how cycles end. Anna nodded slowly. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. Not relief, possibility. The store no longer felt like a courtroom. It felt like a pause. A breath held between what had been and what could come next. The man turned toward Anna again, but this time his voice was lower, slower. The position I mentioned earlier, he said, isn't behind a register. Anna frowned slightly. Then what is it? He folded his hands. Community outreach, policy review, family support. The manager's head snapped up. You'd work with families who fall through the cracks, the man continued. Not as a spokesperson, as a decision maker. Anna felt her chest tighten. You'd be trained, he said. Paid. Protected. Lily tugged her mother's sleeve. Mommy, you'd help people like us? Anna swallowed. Yes, baby. The man nodded. That's exactly why it has to be you. He turned to the suited men. Prepare the contract. One of them hesitated. Sir, the board will want. They'll understand, the man replied calmly. Anna took a step forward. Why me? The man met her gaze without hesitation. Because you didn't ask for power, he said. And you didn't trade dignity for relief. The store grew quiet again. That's rare, he added. Anna looked around. The same store that had judged her now watched her with something else. Respect. This won't erase today, Anna said softly. No, the man replied, but it ensures it wasn't wasted. He glanced at Lily. This, he said, is how cycles stop repeating. Anna nodded slowly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was stepping forward. People didn't rush to leave. That was the strange part. Carts stood abandoned in aisles. Items remained unpurchased. Conversations were whispered, careful, as if everyone feared breaking something fragile. The store had changed, not physically, morally. The man stood near the front now, speaking quietly with one of the suited men. He wasn't commanding, he was listening. Anna watched from a distance, Lily still holding her hand. For the first time since she'd walked into the store that day, no one was staring at her clothes. They were looking at her face. A young cashier approached hesitantly, the same one who had looked away earlier. I'm sorry, she said softly. I should have helped you. Anna studied her for a moment. I know, she replied. Fear is loud. The cashier nodded, eyes filling with tears. Thank you for not becoming bitter. Anna didn't answer right away. I didn't have time to be, she said finally. Near the registers, the manager was giving quiet instructions. No raised voice, no excuses. Employees listened. Really listened. The elderly woman approached Anna and smiled warmly. You held yourself with grace, she said. That's rarer than money. Anna smiled back. So is courage. Across the room, the man finished his conversation and turned. He looked around the store one last time. This place, he thought, had always been efficient, but it had never been decent. Until today. He walked toward Anna and Lily, stopping a respectful distance away. This story won't end here, he said. Anna nodded. I know. But most people won't hear about what happened next, he added. Only about what happened first. She understood immediately. People remember the humiliation, she said. Not the correction. Yes, he replied. That's why this part matters. He looked at Lily. What you saw today, he said gently, was a bad moment. Lily nodded. But what you're leaving with, he continued, is proof that bad moments don't get the final word. Lily smiled. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, and for once Anna wasn't afraid of tomorrow. The store was nearly empty now. Only a few employees remained. A few shoppers lingered, still processing what they had witnessed. The man stood near the exit, hands in his pockets, watching the automatic doors slide open and shut. This was never about embarrassment, he said quietly. Anna stood beside him. It felt like it was, she replied. Yes, he said, because tests rarely feel fair. She turned to him. You planned this. He nodded. I did. She waited. I needed to know, he continued. What happened when power stepped back? Anna frowned. What do you mean? He gestured around the store. I walked in as a stranger, he said. Not an owner, not a name. She understood now. And you watched, she said. I watched who laughed, he replied. Who stayed silent? Who spoke up? And me? She asked. He looked at her. I watched dignity survive humiliation, he said. She exhaled slowly. You could have chosen another way, she said. Yes, he admitted, but then I would have learned nothing. He turned to her fully. I wanted to see who people were when they thought it didn't matter. Anna was quiet for a moment. And what did you learn? She asked. He thought carefully. That power doesn't reveal character, he said. It exposes what was already there. She nodded. And that dignity, he added, is the one thing poverty doesn't take. The words settled deep. He glanced toward the door. One last thing, he said. She raised an eyebrow. You passed the test long before I started it. Anna smiled faintly. And you? She asked. He looked at the floor. I'm still learning, he admitted. The parking lot was quiet. Anna buckled Lily into the back seat as the evening sky turned soft and orange. The same car, the same cracked taillight, but nothing else felt the same. She closed the door gently and stood there for a moment, breathing in the stillness. Behind her, footsteps approached. The man stopped a few feet away. I won't follow you, he said, and I won't interfere. She nodded. I didn't expect you to. He held out a simple envelope. No logo, no signature. Your start date, he said, and my direct number. Anna took it but didn't open it. Why tell me all this? She asked. Why say it out loud? The man looked at the store behind them. Because systems don't change in silence, he said, and neither do people. Lily leaned out of the car window. Mommy, is he nice now? Anna smiled softly. He's learning. The man crouched slightly so he could meet Lily's eyes. You were brave today, he told her. Lily nodded seriously. My mommy taught me. The man stood again. That, he said quietly, is how dignity survives. He took a step back, then another. Before turning away, he stopped. I didn't want to see who was poor, he said. I wanted to see who still had dignity. Anna watched him walk away. She opened the envelope once she was alone. It wasn't just a contract. It was a chance. She started the car. As they drove home, Lily hummed softly in the back seat, and for the first time in a long while, the road ahead didn't feel endless. It felt open. Power reveals nothing new. It only exposes what was already there. If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories that remind us who we really are. Comment below. Who do you think truly passed the test? And share this with someone who still believes dignity matters.